Welcome back to my channel. My name is Favi and you're watching Arrows DIY. On this channel, I love creating Dollar Tree DIYs, high-end dupes, thrift flips, and the occasional trash to treasure. Today I'm sharing some beautiful spring decor, so I hope that you enjoy. All of these decor pieces are inspired by other creators on YouTube, so I'll link their channels in the description box below as well as their playlist link. This is my first time participating in the Try It Tuesday playlist, and it's hosted by the creative and lovely Sammy of Unicorn Dust Designs. She'll also be linked in the description box below. But my first project is inspired by Christina Elizabeth. She made this beautiful spring decor piece, and I'm gonna try to recreate it in my own way. So I got this little decor box. It's one of those little drawers, the cube drawers from Michaels. And it was an old project of my son's, my eldest. He's over it. So I decided to use it for this project. I'm going in with the chalk paint called Castle, and I'm going to paint all around it and the edges as well, and a little bit of the inside, because we're going to cover that inside in just a little bit. So while that's drying, I took 2 of these paint sticks. I got these from Amazon. I'll link them below. And I just hot glued them together to make it more sturdy. So once they're hot glued together, I pressed it firmly. Now the hot glue does kind of want to separate the 2 sticks, so be sure to do this quickly. And I kind of bowed it back and forth to make sure that it was as flat as possible. And then I painted it in the same chalk paint in the color Castle. Now I'm going to use some of these wood planks from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to also use this calendar, the 2022 Farm Fresh calendar. And I love using these calendars, and I'm just going to take the word fresh flowers off of this March calendar page. So to do that, I put the wood plank behind the calendar page, making sure that it completely surrounds the piece on the back, and then I just used my X-Acto knife to cut a straight edge. To make sure that it was somewhat straighter than my freehand cutting, I used this little square, also from the Dollar Tree, and I just followed the edge carefully, trying not to rip this calendar page. Now it still wasn't perfect. I don't know why I can't cut a line to save my life, but I just used this little paper cutter, super handy for projects like this, and I just straightened out the edges. Usually I wouldn't be so finicky, but since it's going to be the focal point, one of the focal points on this piece, I figured it'd be worth a straight edge. Now I'm going to go in and give this little wood plank a coat of antique wax, and I left the antique wax very rich. I did not water it down or anything because I wanted a very bold color. And I also antique waxed the edges as well. Now my paintbrush was a little tiny bit wet, so it did have some of that castle color still on it for the edges, and I really like the effect that it gave. So now I'm going to go in with an old t-shirt and just rub off the excess. Now I do want to use these rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree, so it's important to seal your projects if you do wax them in any way. And this is going to allow the transfer to transfer. Without this step, your transfer will not adhere to your wood piece. So keep that in mind. Once the Mod Podge is fully dry, I'm going to go in. But first, we have to hot glue this paint stick. So I'm going to hot glue it to the inner back portion of this cube box. And I got a little happy with my hot glue, so I got to wipe it off using a craft stick. Very simple to do, but you know, just be mindful if you try to recreate this project. Once it was fully adhered, I used Gorilla Hot Glue all the time as my hot glue of choice. I'm going to put in this little pool noodle from Dollar Tree. I love using pool noodle. It's just cost-effective form of floral foam. So I'm going to go in and just push it in so my pool noodles is a little tiny bit bigger than my cube, just to make sure it's in there snug. And now I'm going to cover the bottom with some reindeer moss. Now, I've had this reindeer moss for a long time. It no longer smells like feet. But yeah, just keep in mind, this stuff can get really smelly, which is probably why Christina Elizabeth used Spanish moss. So use your favorite moss of choice. So I pushed it in, making sure that the pool noodle is fully covered. I do not adhere it with hot glue. And I'm going to use these beautiful spring florals from Dollar Tree. I'm obsessed with these florals. I'm finally found them this year. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut off the stems, the individual stems, and just shove them in wherever I think they look nice. I start off with the longer stems first, just kind of putting them randomly around to make the colors vary. So I just didn't want too much of one color in one spot. Once all the longer picks were on there, I went in and I added shorter ones around the border just to cover and make it appear more full. And you can do this with any florals, obviously. I just wanted a wildflower kind of effect. I'm sorry about the background noise. My children are here and I'm in a city, so it's always loud when I start to voice over. Y'all know how it is. So as you can see here, I just filled in the floral box. And now I took this little garden pick from the Dollar Tree and I just cut off the tag, and then I just wiggled that bottom pick back and forth and it just popped right off. It was amazing. I was worried at first how I was going to cut it off, but this part was a piece of cake. Now I'm going to take some jute twine, also from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just wind it around that handle. I'm not going to hot glue it to the handle. That way we can adjust the watering can to any position we want to put it in. And I wind it around about 3 times, and then I just tie a knot. Now, whenever I use jute twine, I always add a little dot of hot glue. You know, you could use whatever adhesive you like, super glue, anything. Just make sure you add a little bit of something, because sometimes jute twine does want to unravel no matter how many knots you put or how tight you tie it. So just FYI. Once it's tied on there, I'm going to lay the can on its side and kind of measure where this watering can will be. I want it a little bit higher than the florals, but not too high because we still have to add our sign. So I tied a knot about 2 inches from the watering can on the jute twine, and then I secured it with hot glue. To keep the hot glue as flat as possible, I added a piece of masking tape, and then I just trimmed it off to keep it nice and neat. Now that's done, we're going to go ahead and work on our little sign. Now, Christina Elizabeth on her project used this beautiful stencil she got from Amazon. Now, I didn't have the same stencil, but remember, it's inspired. You could just make it our own. So I'm going to go ahead and use this transfer from the Dollar Tree. And it was a little bit tricky, so I used a craft stick and I rubbed very, very firmly, making sure to keep this transfer as still as possible. Now, I sped this up because it did take a while since we did have the wood treatment on there, but it worked pretty well. Now, when you are using a transfer, it is helpful to kind of lift the plastic a little tiny bit as you're rubbing. That way it transfers better. Once I was happy with the placement of that transfer, I went ahead and I Mod Podged the little calendar sign that says fresh flowers on there, and I sealed it with Mod Podge. Honestly, I would have preferred to use a glue stick, then I wouldn't have got any wrinkles, but I am going to go back with my little mini iron and some parchment paper. You could still get wrinkles out after the fact by just ironing on top of your Mod Podge with the parchment paper. So now all that's left is to hot glue the sign right to the top at the center, and then just to add a little bit more rustic charm, I went on the edges and just added some knots with some jute twine just to give it more of that rustic cuteness, and I did that for both sides. I also distressed the box a little bit on the edges, but I hope you like that one. Now our next project is inspired by the wonderful Heidi Sonboul from Heidi Sonboul DIY. She'll also link below. She made this beautiful tulip arrangement inside of a cupcake tin. Now, I didn't have any cupcake tins handy that I was willing to part with, so I just decided to use this egg carton. Now, any egg carton will do. I wanted to use the natural colored one, but my husband had already thrown it away. I just made it work. So be sure to just do whatever you want to get the same effect. It doesn't have to be exactly like the creator on YouTube. Just, get the same effect. Did have to adjust the scissors, the angle of my scissor, to make sure that my cut was somewhat straight. And once it was, I went in and I cleaned my edges. Then I went in with this castle color, the same gray color, just to give it a base color. And now I want to make it look galvanized to kind of give the same effect of the cupcake tin. Once the castle paint was dry, I went in with these two brushed metal colors by Folk Art. The first is brushed silver and the second is brushed black. And as you can see, I start off with the brushed silver and I just dab it on with my chippy brush randomly all the way around. And once that was done, I went in with a little tiny bit of that brushed black. I did dab my paintbrush on the work surface to take off the majority of the paint. And then I just went on dabbing, pouncing my brush back and forth, just pouncing it to give it texture. And you want to keep doing this until you're happy with the mix. You can add white if you like as well, if you want to brighten up your galvanized effect. But I just keep doing this. Here's a close-up so you can see what it looks like as it's drying. And this is what it looks like once it's fully dry. Now, as you can tell, I don't know why my carton had these two high points in the center of the egg carton. So I am going to use those in a little bit. But first, I'm going to use some of this floral foam. I use floral foam sparingly because it's very expensive. But I figured since this was so small, I needed something that was going to be easy to cut and help us. So once those little cubes are all in place, they're about an inch. They're about 1-inch cubes. And I went in with some of the same reindeer moss. I just hot glued it to cover all the floral foam. Now, once it was all covered, I took some jute twine and I folded it on itself 4 times to make a thicker jute twine. Then I knotted one end. Now I'm adding some hot glue and I'm just twisting it to kind of give a basket handle effect. And once the hot glue was somewhat dry, I went in and kind of flattened out that little basket handle. Be careful because you have to wait for the hot glue to dry a little bit. And then I made another knot on the other end of the jute twine. And then I went in with a lighter just to burn off some of those hairy bits, as well as soften the hot glue and make it more rustic. I love the effect that this fire gave to the jute twine. It made it look very rustic, and yeah, it's always a lot of fun for me to play with fire on my DIYs. So now I'm going to hot glue both knots on the high points in the center there of the egg carton to kind of make it look like a basket, kind of like a handle. And I did leave little tails long at the ends of that handle. So now I'm going to use some of these tulips from Michael's. I got them last year on sale, and Heidi Sonboul used some beautiful tulips from Amazon. So you can use any florals you like and just make it your own. So now what happened was I didn't like the fact that the bottom of the tulips was so empty. So I ended up using another pick called Queen Anne's Lace, which is another one of my favorite florals from Dollar Tree. And I just took the pick and the leaves off that, and then I stuck the tulips and attached them to that stem. And this is what it looks like once they're all in place. I just put one little bunch of tulips in each of the sections of the egg carton. But as you can see, it's not exactly like Heidi Sonboul's, but it's definitely inspired, and I love this piece. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, our last project's inspired by Kendra over at Late Night Creations, and she made this beautiful little birdhouse on a spindle. Now, this is the last of my spindles, my tiny spindles, and I really wanted to make something beautiful. So when I saw this creation, I had to give it a try. I start off by giving this the same color of the castle chalk paint, and I wanted it to be kind of like a solid coat. At first I thought maybe I wanted to distress it, but I ended up changing my mind, because what I ended up doing for the birdhouse is very colorful, and I love prints and I love decoupaging. I love having fun with my spring decor. So remember, if this is too loud for you, if this is too busy, you can take what you like, whatever ideas you like, take it, and what you don't, leave it out. Just make it your own and have fun, okay? So after I paint the body of the birdhouse in the cast, I go in with the antique wax and I stain the little perches, both of them, as well as the base of this birdhouse. And then I go in with a rag and just wipe off the excess antique wax. Now accidentally I ended up making kind of like a mess when I was trying to wipe it off, and I was like, oh no, it's kind of a mess, but it was a happy accident because I actually like the effect that it gave. It kind of gave like a primitive vibe to the bottom of my birdhouse, and I really liked it. So I see how it fades. I think that's so pretty. So what I ended up doing was keeping it that way and adding more. I ended up adding more antiquing wax to the base all around the birdhouse, as well as just randomly in different spots to make it look weathered and old and rustic, and I just love how it turned out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add more wherever I see fit. And this is what it looks like once it's all weathered. I also added antiquing wax inside of those little holes around the inner edges, and you see how it looks weathered. Oh, I just love that effect. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this beautiful napkin from Mackenzie Childs. It was given to me by my sweet friend Jackie over at Jackie Burns Creations, and I only have 3 of these napkins, and I am using them sparingly. I am using these napkins like they're a treasure, because they really are. They're kind of expensive online, but I'll link them in my description box as well. So remember, you can use any napkin you like. If you're not into this checkered, it's actually called courtly check. If you're not into this, it's totally fine. Use any napkin you have. Dollar Tree also has really cute Easter napkins and spring napkins. Okay, so now I'm using a little tiny piece of masking tape, and I'm just gonna put it on the corner, and this helps separate all the plies. Now, be sure to take off all the plies. Usually each napkin has 2 extra plies. In my last project, this napkin tricked me, and there was a sneaky ply still left on there. So it's very important you get all the plies off so that your decoupage is nice and flat. Now, since it's such a small piece, I figured it'd be fine to add some Mod Podge on there and just directly put it on. If it was a larger piece, I would probably let the Mod Podge dry and then use an iron to get no wrinkles. So as you can see here, I just cut the napkin larger than the birdhouse roof, and then I just used my finger to lay it down section by section. Once it was nice and flat on there, I went in and just sealed it with the Mod Podge. Now I made sure the Mod Podge went all around the edges and over the edges as well. Now this is important because I'm about to use some more fire. I told you, it was one of those days I was crafting on the edge. And I'm gonna go ahead and just add some fire to it to give it more of that rustic texture. When you do use the fire decoupage trick, you do get some burnt edges. So if you don't like that, you might want to sand it instead. And then what I did was I just left doing this because I didn't want to break the roof with the pressing down of the drill. And I kind of wiggled it back and forth because I wanted the hole to be a little bit larger. And I had to make sure that the drill bit that I'm using, not sure if that's the correct term, people, I'm not that person. Yeah, you see, I'm not that person. The drill bit came right off. Just make sure that drill bit is larger than the screw. My spindle had a screw on top, and I didn't have any way to take it off, so I had to drill a hole. So now for the base of this birdhouse, I ended up using 2 of these ribbon spools. I'm not sure if this is, guys, this is not conventional, but I'm gonna make it work. On this channel, you guys know I make it work. And I surprise myself sometimes. And my subscribers too, they tell me, oh my goodness, I can't believe that worked. But anyways, I'm gonna hot glue 2 of these together. These ribbon spools are from the Dollar Tree. And then I used some masking tape to cover the bottom because it was like a hole. And you know, if you have wood, use wood. You don't have to do this. This is kind of crazy, but you know, I'm kind of crazy, so it works. So now I painted everything and I just left it together there to dry. And then once it was dry, I went in and I just added a whole ton of hot glue. Guys, this is stabilized 90% by hot glue. So I'm gonna add hot glue in many layers just to make this thing as stable as possible. Like I said, use wood. Please use wood. I'm just making this work. And this, I don't know what I was thinking. It was 1 a.m. and I was tired. And I was inspired, guys. So it works, but you know, use wood. All right, so once it was dry, I went in and I added more hot glue around the base because as I wiggled this back and forth while it was wet, it was kind of separating the pieces of ribbon spool. Also, when I removed sorry, my kids. I told them to be quiet. I'm so sorry. Okay, so as I was removing that top layer of the ribbon spool, it actually messed with the integrity of the ribbon spool. So if you could trim off the first cardboard that I ripped off, it would be better for you. So as you can see, I added a ton of hot glue all around the edges and it did secure it. Okay, so as you can see there, then I just took the spindle and I shoved the screw into that hole at the bottom of the birdhouse. Now it's time to embellish. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of reindeer moss to the bottom there of the birdhouse, and it had like little twiggy parts as well, which I kind of made stand up just to give it some of that whimsical vibes that I love. And then I wanted to add some flowers to the inside of the birdhouse, and I'm just strategically moving them around with my scissors and my fingers and a little bit of hot glue. And then I add some more of these flowers. These are called Queen Anne's lace, and I have them in 3 colors. So this is me adding the purple right on the side of the birdhouse. Now I had some of these wood laser cut outs from the Dollar Tree, and I thought it'd be fun to add some more of the wood texture in there, and I wanted to add this to the top of the birdhouse just to give it a beautiful ornate feature. So I put it up against the birdhouse and I just cut it using my miter shears, and I secured it with some hot glue. I think you should use wood glue or some other type of Aleene's tacky glue, but just for filming purposes I used hot glue, but you kind of do see it seeping a little. And I used a little tiny bamboo stick to get, or like the top of the toothpick, to get that hot glue out while it was still hot, just to clean it up a little bit. And then I just added another one to the back of the birdhouse. But yeah, so that's how it turned out. Let me know what you think about this one. I think it's super charming and it goes with the rest of my spring decor. And then once the hot glue, the tons and tons of hot glue I just added one more top coat of the chalk paint, and that was it for this one. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. I had so much fun creating these. Special thank you to these wonderful ladies for inspiring me to create some home decor. I didn't have the same things on hand, but I just used whatever I had on hand and got the same effect, which is what I love. Or at least I thought I did. I also want to thank Sammy of Unicorn Dust Designs for hosting such a fun challenge every month on Try It Tuesday. I hope I have the opportunity to try it again. So remember, I linked all of the channels for Sammy, Christina Elizabeth, Heidi Sonboul, and Kendra of Late Night Creations in my description box, as well as the playlist. So I'll leave it down below so you guys can click on that and enjoy more spring inspiration inspired by other creators. So I hope you guys like these projects. I think they're just perfect for spring decor, and they're gonna fit right in to my whimsical, fun home. If you like unique home decor, don't forget to subscribe. I truly appreciate every single one of you who tune in every week to watch this crafty struggle of mine. All right, so that's all the projects. What did you think? Did you like the projects in this video today? So there you go. Those are all the projects in the video today. Let me know in the comments. Let me know which one was your favorite in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell and hit all under notifications so that you don't miss out on another video. Okay? So I want to thank you so much for watching. Take care. God bless, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye. If you like this video, here's another one you might enjoy.